Here's an interesting fact about anxiety and panic attacks. Did you know that just like the hiccups, doctors still can't agree exactly why they happen to you? And did you also know there's a 60-second solution to panic and anxiety that you can do anywhere? Yes, it just takes you 1 minute, and I'm going to share it with you today. Hi, I'm Dan. Until one day about a year ago, I thought I might be doomed to let panic attacks rule my life. And I made this free online presentation to tell you about the one discovery about panic and general anxiety that finally cut through the confusion and changed everything. Pay very close attention, because whether you've only had one or two attacks so far, or even if you've been having them for years and it seems like a life sentence you'll never escape from, you're about to discover one weird thing that panic, anxiety, and the hiccups, yes, the hiccups, have in common that goes right back to the Stone Age. You'll also discover how, by combining an obscure secret about the body hidden in this statue with something in this child's drawing, you can get immediate relief from any panic or anxiety attack, anywhere, anytime, in 60 seconds or less. That's right. One little trick that takes you just 60 seconds and stops your panic or anxiety attack before it starts, or anyone around you even notices. All without a single pill from a doctor or psychiatrist or a trip to the pharmacy. Already, this video presentation has helped so many people. In fact, Gail says, "Thank you so much for this informative video. I never knew the real cause of panic disorder, but now I'm on my way to being panic-free." Bob says, "This presentation has saved me thousands of dollars in medication bills, not to mention a bunch of awful side effects." And Michelle says, "I was convinced I needed months of therapy to solve my general anxiety, until I watched your video. Thank you so much." Now, fair warning, I can't promise I'll be able to keep this video online. I'm an average guy with a family and a job, and if it starts getting too much attention, I might have to take it down. So please watch it now while you can. Because the fact that you're here on this page tells me you may have already reached a point where you feel your anxiety is not going away on its own, or you fear it's getting worse and worse. And I don't want you to go one more day allowing panic or anxiety to make your life miserable, as it keeps you from enjoying everything from your work to your health to your friends and family. It's important you know that you will not suffer like this forever. There is a solution. And yes, you deserve to live your life without fearing when or where your next attack will strike and feeling helpless to stop it. I know how you feel because I have been there myself. I understand what you're going through, how alienated you feel from the people closest to you. They try to understand, but it's easy to see how frustrated they can get with you. Other people may be able to shake a bad mood by putting on happy music or forcing themselves to smile, but this is not a bad mood. This is something different, and those who haven't felt it simply can't relate. So what's this secret you're about to discover that let me put panic attacks and anxiety behind me and get my life back? Well, believe it or not, it all started with a seatbelt, a kind stranger on an airplane, and a business card I almost threw away. I'll tell you that story in just a second, but first, let me get something off my chest. If you're suffering from panic attacks or anxiety today, you're not going crazy or losing your mind, and you do not have a mental illness. Unfortunately, when you seek help, you may get the same knee-jerk reaction many people who have an anxiety or panic attack receive from their doctor, a hasty prescription for a bottle of pills. But don't blame your doctor. It's really not his fault. These days, doctors get about as many visits from big pharma salesmen as they do from patients like us, giving them incentives for dispensing their latest miracle cure drugs. And you know how they say when all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail? Well, you and me are the ones getting hammered. Did you know the American Academy of Family Physicians recently claimed the most popular anti-anxiety drugs should not be used for longer than 4 weeks? The truth is, while some people need medication in the short term, you must understand, drugs do nothing to cure the root cause of your suffering. And if that's not bad enough, the side effects for many of these medications are, ready for this? Panic attacks, anxiety, even depression and suicidal thoughts. It's enough to make you wonder if these drug companies actually want you to remain stuck in a life-destroying cycle of panic and anxiety, just so they can squeeze every penny out of you. The good news is, the 60-second tip I'm about to share with you put a stop to my panic attacks and anxiety before I gave in and accepted a drug company's little bottle full of help. Today, I am completely free from panic and anxiety. I'm no longer haunted by fear, wondering when and where my next attack is going to strike. Because I know if I even get a hint of an attack coming on, I can stop it dead in its tracks in just 60 seconds. So let me introduce you to the person who shared this 60-second panic solution with me just over a year ago today. Her name is Anna Gibson Steele. And here's what I think you'll find unique about Anna. She's not a doctor, even though doctors who know her refer their patients to her for treatment. And although she's a licensed therapist who successfully worked with over 2,000 clients, unlike any other therapist I've ever heard of, she's openly happy about the fact that 93% of the panic and anxiety sufferers she helps never need to return for a second appointment. Anna's expertise and wisdom in helping people overcome panic and anxiety without dangerous drugs or endless and expensive talk therapy comes from her near-relentless pursuit of the truth. You see, 19 years ago, before she became a therapist, Anna suffered from panic attacks just like you and me. As she tells the story, she was working at a bank, sitting down having a friendly meeting with a customer, when all of a sudden, she felt a strange flutter of nervous energy in her belly, and it became more intense until she could hardly breathe. Her thoughts were scrambled. All she could imagine was, even though she was young and in good health, she was somehow having a heart attack. She felt sweat on her palms as she sat at her desk in sheer terror, waiting for the moment when she would black out. One of her coworkers bundled her into a car and rushed her straight to a doctor. The doctor examined her, told her she was not having a heart attack, gave her a prescription, and told her to go home and get some rest. Anna says it wasn't until years later that she found out what she experienced was called a panic attack. After that, things got so bad for Anna that she rarely experienced a moment where she felt safe, secure, and at ease. She felt perpetually on the verge of a nervous breakdown, increasingly afraid she would end up in a mental hospital. The medication her doctor prescribed did nothing, she says, except turn her into an emotionless zombie. Seeing no light at the end of the tunnel, her world narrowed and shrank into a dark and lonely place. A place in which staying in bed and praying for peaceful sleep felt like the only way to escape the waking nightmare she was living. And Anna was lucky. Practically by accident, she discovered a secret that allowed her to start living a normal life again. Yet the memory of that dark time haunted her for years as she dedicated her life to helping others who were facing the same misunderstood and terrifying symptoms. And the more she studied, the more she uncovered the truth. Panic attacks and anxiety are not a mental illness. They're not caused by bad genetics either, and the cure can never be found in a pill, months of talk therapy, or by breathing deeply and thinking happy thoughts. So now that I've told you Anna's story, let me share with you how I discovered Anna and her solution, and exactly how this little 60-second trick works. Now, I'm 32, and until about a month before I met Anna, I never had any problems with anxiety, much less full-on panic attacks. If you ask my friends and family to describe me, they'd probably call me successful, easygoing, or even carefree. I certainly didn't feel stressed out, or like I was headed for a mental breakdown. Heck, as an avid skydiver, deep water dive master, and a pilot in training, I intentionally lived life on the edge. If it wasn't extreme, I wasn't interested. So I couldn't have felt more relaxed, or so I thought, as my wife and I took our seats on a routine flight home from Seattle to Dallas. Yet as the plane took off out of the blue, I couldn't breathe. My heart felt like it was pounding out of my chest, and as hot as it was, I felt a cold sweat breaking out on my skin. And that's when the unthinkable happened. There was only room for one thought in my head. I have to get out. Forget that the plane is already airborne. I unbuckled my seatbelt, made a rush for the cabin door in an attempt to open it. Several people leapt up to restrain me. They dragged me back to my seat, all the while screaming at the top of my lungs, "Land the plane! Land the plane!" Of course, the flight attendants didn't know what to think. They could only see I was overcome with fear. They kept saying, "Don't worry, flying is perfectly safe." When the truth was, I not only didn't have a fear of flying, I was a pilot myself, only a few flight hours from becoming licensed. My wife, even more confused and alarmed than the airline staff, could only try to comfort me as I suffered for 4 hours, pushing my head against the metal part of the seat, hoping it would hurt enough to drown out the feeling in my head that was so much worse than physical pain. Finally, by the time the plane landed, the feeling of terror was gone. And the minute I got off that plane, I swore to myself, whatever the heck that was, it can never happen again. No matter what it takes, I need to figure this out. Now, call it fate, or the universe, or whatever you may believe in. As I'm standing there by the arrival gate, still dazed from the whole experience, a woman with a soft Irish accent approaches me and says, "Sorry to bother you, but I was on the plane and I saw what happened." Mortified by what people on the plane must think of me, I assumed she wanted to give me a piece of her mind. I could only stammer, "I'm so sorry. You must feel like slapping me for what happened up there." Instead of letting loose like I half expected, she smiles at me, calmly hands me a business card, and says, "No, I'm not mad at you. In fact, I think I know what you're going through because I experienced it myself. And if you're willing, I know an amazing therapist named Anna Gibson Steele who can help you right over the phone. Here's her number." What would you have done? Would you have been smarter than me and called the number on that business card right away? Or would you have done the same thing I did? Politely tuck the card in your pocket, thank the stranger for her kindness, and call your physician for the soonest possible appointment. As it turned out, my doctor couldn't see me for 5 long days. Doesn't sound like a long time to wait. However, over the next 48 hours, I had not one, not five, but 19 terrifying panic attacks. These attacks were coming out of nowhere, and when I least expected them. Like when sitting on the couch watching TV, reading a book, and worst of all, even in the middle of the night. I knew I wasn't going to make it 5 whole days, and even then, I was pretty sure what my doctor was going to say. "Take 2 of these as needed." What I needed was an immediate solution. So one night, after bolting awake out of a deep sleep, convinced I was dying, I dug that business card out of my wallet and dialed the long international number, not even thinking about the time. Yet after just 2 rings, I heard a soothing Irish voice say, "Hello, this is Anna Gibson Steele." I felt such relief. I just started talking, and everything came out in a rush. The airplane disaster, the kind stranger, and the waking nightmare I'd been living every day since the day I took that flight. And what she shared with me on that call, the same 60-second technique I'm now passing on to you with her permission in just a moment, was so simple, it might seem almost too good to be true until you try it. Because it flies in the face of the lies we've been fed about panic and anxiety for years by pharmaceutical companies with billion-dollar advertising campaigns, and even repeated by well-meaning doctors and therapists. The biggest of these lies, Anna told me, is that you need a prescription pill, or that panic and anxiety are all in your head, and that if you try hard enough, you can just talk the panic away and get over it. If you've heard these lies yourself, they may have made you feel the same way I did by the time I talked to Anna, that you're weak, or there's something wrong with you, or even that you're losing control of your mind and you might end up losing control of your life if it gets any worse. You see, Anna explained, the root cause of your attacks is buried so deep, no amount of talking and no pill will ever make it go away. I was getting curious. "Where is it then?" I asked. "Well, have you ever had the hiccups?" she asked. "Of course," I laughed. "Well," she said, "your panic attacks are triggered in the same part of the brain as hiccups. And it's this subconscious part of your brain, an ancient area scientists call the lizard brain, the part that contains the primitive survival instincts passed down over millions of years of evolution." "You mean like fight or flight?" I asked. "Exactly," she said. "It's called the fight or flight response, and it's automatic. So when something truly dangerous or scary happens, you can react without even thinking about it and save your life." "Okay, that makes sense," I said. "So then why would my lizard brain start freaking out when I'm not in any real danger, and I'm not even afraid? Like when I'm watching TV or sitting on a plane going home from vacation?" She continued, "Well, that's because sometimes, for reasons the brain scientists don't fully understand yet, your survival instinct goes haywire and triggers feelings of intense anxiety and panic, even when there's nothing threatening you." Anna went on to tell me that because your survival instinct is buried deep in your lizard brain, it's not only not your fault that you get panic attacks and feel overcome with anxiety. In fact, the only way to get relief is to find a way to control that most primitive survival area of your mind. That's because it doesn't respond to thinking or talking. It doesn't understand psychology or self-help books. And even the most powerful drugs only mask your symptoms for a little while.